Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the LinkedIn profile webinar. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Rebecca Darling, and I'm a career coach at the Career Advancement Center and also interim manager for the EMBA Americas program. So we're thrilled to have you join us today. And for those of you that will be listening to the recording, also happy to have you listen in. So I'd like to welcome you all today, and as you know, LinkedIn is your powerful tool to leverage your career. It is the opportunity to communicate about your goals, leverage, and engage in supporting your business ecosystem and developing your contacts locally, regionally, nationally, and even globally. So while I'm certain many of you will bring your own amount of your own knowledge and your own perspective to this topic, I hope that my intention is that you walk away with a fresh perspective about how to leverage your LinkedIn profile and your presentation online with the social media platform. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and get started. We will have an opportunity at the end to take a few questions. If any of you have questions, you can go ahead and send them in. And Haley will take those questions down and we'll respond to that for you. I also did want to mention there will be a document sent out, or a document on the portal that is a LinkedIn audit page for you to take a look at your LinkedIn after learning more about the content today, for you to do a review and quick assessment for your purposes, as well as an evaluation feedback form, which we love to hear how the webinars are serving you and if there are other topics that you want to hear about. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and move ahead through our career management framework. The LinkedIn profile is really in that build section where we talk about your skills and your personal brand and helping you leverage that. The goals for today are to learn to connect to your audience through LinkedIn social media presence, while integrating career goals into that profile presentation, and watch outs. But what I've done also with the watch outs is I've put in the slide presentation today some value added tips for you. We'll be discussing some watch outs throughout the webinar, but really some other ways for you to add value. So this is the opportunity for you to leverage your assets, develop and curate your profile, choose that presentation that fits you best, added value, watch outs, and then an audit. One of the things I'd like to go back to is that terminology around curating your profile. When we curate something, we take care of it, we develop it. The LinkedIn it's a dynamic document, and it's really your opportunity to communicate about yourself best. If you don't currently have a LinkedIn profile, and that's fine, this is a good time to think about it. Without a LinkedIn profile in today's business context, it really is a huge roadblock. Your recruiters are on LinkedIn. We're finding that 93% of recruiters use LinkedIn, and perhaps you're not only in the job trajectory track, but as an executive in business, you may be looking for talent as well. And LinkedIn is an excellent way for you to engage in the community. By not participating and having that clear, concise communications about your experience, your priorities, and your personal brand, you're really creating a barrier without that profile. So with that in mind, I hope that you take away some of the information and begin to think about how you can improve yours. As LinkedIn's Harris DeWolf noted on LinkedIn, that with a strong network on LinkedIn, people get up to 13 times more job opportunities, which is quite impactful when you think about that in terms of opening up those doors. So we know why it's so important for you and for recruiters to reach you and find you. Before we get too far, one of the things that I wanted to suggest to you, if you haven't done this yet and you're going to approach your profile with some edits, one of the things you want to do is to go to your personal settings and be certain that you check in on how the edit settings are set up for yourself. You want to turn off announcements about your edits. So before we dive into a profile update, it's really important to do that. Otherwise, everyone in your network will receive information about your edits. Everything from a new post to a misspelled word and updating that. So you really want to take some time to do that. Okay, so the platform, LinkedIn, as you can see here, has become absolutely critical to a recruitment strategy. We find it to be one of the best and the most powerful networking tools with our alumni as well. So when your settings are open for recruiters to find you, they will find you through algorithms, through keywords, through engagements, as well as posting on your profile. Sometimes we forget that this is it really is a social media platform, and the more you engage with LinkedIn, the more response you're going to get. I can provide a personal example to you. After visiting Cornell and Ithaca myself, I was updating my profile and made some changes, and literally within about 2 weeks had over 350 new views on that profile. So you'll see the spikes in the analytics. It's really worthwhile to take some time to look at that analytic in terms of how it's matching your priorities, what your goals are for your profile. The other thing I did want to mention is that the Smith Alumni is available to you through LinkedIn. It's a fantastic resource with 22,000 alumni in 83 countries. It's very easy to access that. I'm not going to go into that today a lot in terms of how to do it and moving around on that platform, but if you haven't engaged in that yet, this is the time to do it as you start to grow that network. Okay, so LinkedIn recruiters, as I said, the algorithm insights are very important, and this awareness for you is to note that keywords are weighted more heavily in the headline and summary versus the rest of the profile. Recommendations give profiles a higher score. Regular engagement activity ranks profiles higher, and recruiters prioritize people following their company. The preferred location is also a factor around that. When we talk about keywords, previously keywords would be what would be detected in terms of the algorithms, or Google people would put in their keywords and not worry about engagement. But what's happened over the last several years is the keywords are weighted very heavily combined with that engagement. And when I say engagement, my point about that is, are you posting currently? Are you following people? Are you following influencers? And are you supporting other people in terms of their posts? So the more you engage and the more you have activity, your profile ranks higher. Recruiters, as I said, following their company, they're also looking for you to engage in that as well. A word about location. You have the opportunity to identify where you want to show you're located. So if let's say you're in Calgary and you wanted to move to Ontario, you can actually focus on Ontario as part of your profile. The only thing about that, just be aware if you list another area other than where you're geographically located currently, you need to consider how that is perceived by a potential employer, as far as if that's something that you need to explain, or you're targeting another geographic area so that you can develop those contacts and build your network in that area. But it's just something that's a personal choice that you need to make and be authentic and transparent about that. In conclusion, the more active you are, the more increased return on investment you have with your profile. So it's a good investment on your time. Curating those new opportunities, that LinkedIn profile creation does create a strong LinkedIn profile targeting both recruiters and connections. And this is truly your audience. And just to reiterate, identifying and contacting alumni helps you learn strategies to, the LinkedIn profile really helps with those strategies to follow through on that. Okay, so think about your own profile. We're not going to dive into this in terms of taking a lot of time with it, but what I'd like to suggest for you is to get a fresh perspective about your own profile is to get feedback. Get feedback from colleagues, friends, trusted friends, people who will give you genuine feedback on your personal brand. Are they perceiving what you want to share as your message? Are you reaching the targeted audience that you're after? So keep that in mind. All right, so here is a slide just regarding the edits for you. You can see the where the red arrow is, excuse me, on the lower part of the slide, sharing profile edits. That's where you want to turn that off. So if you're not familiar with that, under your picture, there's a drop-down menu, and you can go in and see the profile privacy settings, and you can update that accordingly. So just be certain that you do that before you go in and do any edits. All right, let's move forward to the photo, background, and background image, and what recruiters are looking for. This is a headline of a profile for Ken Rush. I met Ken in Ithaca at Cornell and was really aware in terms of his branding and how he communicated about the transition that he made to work at EY. And then went to his LinkedIn profile, and it's very clear, concise, and I'm certain there's something else you're noticing about this, which is a picture that just pops, a banner that pops. So it really does catch your attention. Ken is on the headline part. You know, he talks about being client-focused, business strategist with strengths in commercial, finance, supply chain, and finance in the financial planning and analysis sector. He's also located in Houston, Texas, which provides a connection to the banner, the background banner for his profile. Everyone has their own perspective of how they want to position themselves, but I thought this was a really great example, and I have his permission to use it, of course. I thought it was a really great example of bringing a lot together in terms of the color of the banner and the background, seeing nature. It's a great profile picture. If you don't have a terrific profile picture with a big smile, you want to be certain that you have a clear photo of yourself, and then talking about what he does and where he's located. So it's very consistent all throughout, and we'll also take a look at his summary as well momentarily. Here's another one. Again, recruiters are looking for profiles that stand out and that pop. Again, another background. It used to be that people would only use the LinkedIn background banner, so think about what really reflects what you do, who you are. LinkedIn is the opportunity to tell stories about yourself, to share those authentic stories about who you are, what your priorities are, and what that personal brand is. Very different from a resume. So you want to avoid having your LinkedIn profile be simply transferring your resume over into the profile. It should stand out as a different opportunity for marketing yourself and what your experience is. But again, take a look at this one. This is very clear, concise, and to the point. Great profile picture as well as that background banner. In many of these cases, less is more. You want to be concise with your communications and the words that you use. All right, so we've seen this, taken a look at it, but just again to reiterate, your headline is a huge importance. If you're not certain what words, what impact words to use about yourself, that's a good opportunity to ask colleagues and friends. Keep it simple with impact. Customize that with 120 characters to play with. Pack it with value for your intended audience. And search engine optimization words. The intended audience piece is really essential. Think about who your audience is. If you're looking to change the industry that you're in, if you're looking to change your career, you want to be certain that you're communicating to take you from where you are today and cross that gap to where you want to go. And there are some ways that you can do that. I'll come back to that momentarily. Helping people understand value that you bring to them in simple words. What are your assets that you're leveraging? What's your talent and your skills that is transferable into another organization? No cliches or jargon. Please avoid acronyms as much as possible. You want it, again, to be clear and concise. And never leave the default title in your headline. So what we mean by that is be sure to communicate in your headline with intention those impact words. Otherwise, it will just go automatically to a default from the information that you pull from your LinkedIn experience summary. Okay. So with the intended audience and the search engine optimization keywords, that's where the engagement is really essential. So the way that you can add value to that is to begin to follow other people. When you see articles that are of interest, post those articles. Add an introduction sentence to that article, and that begins to move you into another area of really being informed about that information. If you have some online information sources you like to follow, pull those articles into your LinkedIn profile. There's some really great ones in today's context. McKinsey is one that I like to use a lot. There's great articles, but there are many more. It just depends on what you're interested in. My portfolio is focused on tech and innovation, operations, and sustainability. So I want to curate information and articles around those areas. So think about what it is you're doing today, where you want to go, and how can you add value to your LinkedIn profile through that. Another thing I'll mention to you is as far as articles, writing an article and adding that to your LinkedIn profile can be very impactful and draw significant attention to your profile. When you are writing an article, be certain it's well written, of course. That goes without saying, but you have an opportunity to use it as a blog and to leverage information coming from you as an informed business person, as the expert in your field. All right, so with the navigating that headline, this is a simple formula. This was adapted from Pete Liebman, and I included the link in the slide as well. So option one, it's a very simple formula, is to say what you are. 2, say who you are, who you can help, rather. 3, how you make their life and work better. And number 4, really give that proof statement to ensure that you're communicating about how you're credible. To keep it, if you don't want to add as much information as the first option, you can simply describe your role, the industry, area of expertise, and your unique value that you bring to that role. And again, it's different for everybody. There isn't one right way to do it. It needs to feel like it's a fit for you. a LinkedIn profile is a dynamic document and it is changing. You can even schedule some time for yourself in your schedule where, every 3 months revisit that, or on an ongoing basis you can keep it moving forward in terms of adding value. Here are a few headline examples for you that I pulled into the slides. So if you just take a look. Tom Ebeyer from Leading Minds, he is a graduate of one of the Smith programs, the MMIE program, builder, mentor, facilitator. He's a real entrepreneur, inspired optimist at the intersection of innovation, entrepreneurship, and education. So you can see he has his company name, he has Smith, communicating in a way that really lends itself to entrepreneurship. Naeem Kesmani has completed the full-time MBA here, and he is involved in healthcare strategy and execution, creative problem solver, pharmacist. So with those 3 sections, you really get a great idea of what his priorities are and what he's involved in terms of making an impact in business. A few other ones for you here. You can take a look. Shelley Eslinger. What I like about this is globally recognized LinkedIn trainer, career specialist, confidence coach, and empowering women. She's gone to the extent of using a hashtag, Be Socially Fearless, in Toronto. So we don't see that too often, but again, it's another opportunity. This is what works for her. And Patrick Egbonon, who is an MBA he completed the Cornell Queen's program. He's an alumni from a few years ago. Data analytics and artificial intelligence, leadership and business strategy, author, speaker, professor, and applied researcher. And he does all of those things in his role currently as coordinator of a program at St. Lawrence. So it's a great example of how he has very concisely communicated a lot of things that he's doing in his career. Okay, so here's some other examples for you that you can take a look at. For example, in commercial banking, you can add 5 years in finance and management roles, client relationship focused, CFA level 3. Brand strategist, 4 years in the CPG, marketing, analytics, insights, project management professional. And more on the entrepreneurial side, collaborator, communicator, entrepreneur, extensive experience in Ontario's renewable energy sector. And then the last one, professional engineer and project manager who translates tech speak to English for senior executives, agile strategist. So those are some great examples. One of the things I did want to mention here is where you see these symbols, you cannot create those in LinkedIn. If you want to pull something like that into your profile, you need to go to a Word doc, pull up symbols, and copy and paste that into your LinkedIn profile. It's a little detailed, but if you want to have those things, that makes a difference for you. Peter Gruber's book, Tell to Win. The reason I have this in here is it's a great book, but really emphasizes the fact telling stories is how we connect with people. And if you work on your profile as you move that forward, pull out the stories about your authentic self with intention and attention. So you're creating a relationship. It's not so much a transaction. We don't want the profile to be more transactional, but an opportunity to start to build that relationship. And you do that by sharing information about yourself that you're comfortable sharing with. The other thing I'd like to mention in the summaries as we move forward with that is to write summaries in the first person with I. Many situations we'll see people writing their summaries in the third person. That's very formal. and in today's context, it really reaches people in a more friendly way, informal way for them to connect with you when your summary is written in the first person. So keep that in mind. It's a great book to revisit, and there are some videos online as well to learn from him about how to tell that story if you feel you need a little bit of help around that. Okay, and I think we have some questions coming in, but all right. So from a marketing perspective, it is a marketing opportunity to leverage your career. And I'd like to ask you to stop and think about what is that impact you're leaving? What is the imprint that you're leaving when people come to your profile and they read about you? Are they suddenly feeling that they can connect with you and reach out to you? Or vice versa, if you're hiring talent as well. It's up to you to determine what it is you want to communicate. And in many cases, a LinkedIn profile is going to be more formal, but from a recruiter perspective, they want to learn more about you. I'll come back to that, yeah. Okay, so let's just go through this. I think it kind of fits in with one of the questions that we've gotten as well. Marketing opportunity to leverage who you are and what you're about. Grab the reader with a hook. Make a positive, unique first impression, speak to your next role in terms of the aspirations, and entice people to read the rest of your profile. So we have a question here, how about innovative and resilient sales leader within the digital DNA for someone seeking a sales management position? So I'm not 100% certain if your question is how to do that specifically, or if you have some ideas around that. But in the sales area, and I can speak to that, my background, I have sales and marketing experience as well, is, you know, from a digital perspective, you want to start to communicate and engage in articles and information that help to leverage your knowledge around that. Innovation is key in today's context, but innovation is happening in corporations as well as in entrepreneurial organizations. So there's a digital transformation that's occurring in every sector and every business. So if you're looking to make a transition in a digital way, in terms of a role in a company, then the opportunity is there to inform yourself of what's happening in the business environment and the space and to start to speak to that. If you have information to, you know, if you're an expert in that and you want to leverage that, not certain specifically which question you're looking for, but if you're an expert in that, you want to leverage that, the platform is a perfect place to do that. One other thing you can do is there are platforms where you can schedule your LinkedIn posts. So from a digital perspective, if you want to be really active and consistent, you can plan your postings out. You can schedule them. There are a few different services that do that. Okay. Thank you for that question, by the way, and I'm happy to connect with you afterwards as well. My contact information will be there for all of you, so happy to connect with you in a one-on-one too. So the nuts and bolts of the summary. Let's move forward and talk about the summary in terms of what recruiters are looking for and what works in a summary. About 2,000 characters is a fit. Not a reiteration of your resume. Just as in a cover letter and on a LinkedIn profile, recruiters do not want to see your resume repeated on that profile. It needs to be unique and stand out. Not rather a blend of personal and professional information, and that's up to you as far as how much you want to include. Some people are more comfortable providing more personal information about themselves. If you're a really private person and you're not comfortable doing that, you can still have a really strong LinkedIn profile and headline and summary with impactful words without sharing personal scenarios about yourself. Conversational tone, as I mentioned before, first person but still professional. and it needs to represent your unique voice. And short chunks of content, avoiding long paragraphs. Pack it with SEO words, include contact information, email, and website. So if you have that information, if you're an entrepreneur, be certain to include your information. Obviously, it goes without saying. But in the contact information, include information about how you are willing to be contacted. If you're okay with people contacting you through your email, then certainly add that. If you are comfortable with people reaching you through your phone number, then add that. But in a lot of cases, professionals will utilize the messaging on LinkedIn versus adding a phone number or email. Okay, so going back to the summary, taking a look at one of the profiles, but diving into the summary. Again, what recruiters are looking for. Ken Rush's summary here, it's very clear and concise, talking about being an adventurer with a purpose. And that first sentence is impactful. That can relate to business and it can relate to a personal life as well. I believe life is all about discovery. Through my adventures, I've been able to live in some cool cities while building skills in commercial finance, supply chain, finance, and financial planning and analysis. And I think he does a really great job of bringing together the financial skills combined with personal adventure. It's very well written, it's concise, clear, to the point, very friendly, and inviting. Ken goes on to add, passionate about cars. My career began in the automotive industry through discovery and intellectual curiosity. I leveraged my financial toolkit to deliver in the automotive, aviation, consulting, professional services, healthcare, oil and gas, and pharmaceuticals. He's done a great way of adding a lot of information about his experience without going into a tremendous amount of detail. The last paragraph, when I'm not working, I'm either running trails, racing cars, and an easy way to connect with me is to strike up a conversation about cars. So anyway, it's a great way to communicate about his professional career as well as his personal interests. So I think it's a terrific summary and a profile that really stands out to people. We have a couple of questions here, so I'm going to go through some of these. Is it suitable to use more than one language on LinkedIn? For example, in Canada, the public service communicates in English and French. That is a great question, and I think it really depends on how that represents you. It's really important. Also, if you're, if you're in an area, for example, if you're in Ottawa, I previously worked in a government organization where all materials needed to be available in French and English. If you're in that type of business or that's important for you to share both languages, then I think it's your personal preference. And it's a great idea, a great way to do it. Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that question. Should you include MBA in your profile line? That is also a wonderful question. Thank you. These questions, there really isn't a right or wrong way. It's up to you in terms of if that's important to you. If you're looking for a career or you're looking for a position where that's going to be really key to leverage that, and in terms of competing with other talent, that may be important for you to have it. The other thing I'll say about having MBA in your profile line is you've worked really hard for it. So, if you want to share that on your profile, absolutely, and do so and be proud and happy about that because you've worked really hard. But that's a great question. I will say one of the things that we are going away from in the profile piece, and perhaps you may be thinking about this as well, is MBA candidate. What what some individuals and professionals have started to do is to not have candidate in the headline, but then where it lists your experience and your education, if you want to include candidate there. There's two schools of thought about that. Some people recognize that when they're in front of a hiring manager, they'll have the opportunity to talk about their education and when they're finishing that. So it depends, again, on your situation and, if that's important to you. But I would say certainly add MBA on your headline and in the summary. One last question before we move forward. What are SEO words? So your search engine optimization keywords. Think about impact words. Think about if you're looking at an industry, let's say tech, for example, right? If you, from a perspective of posting different information, innovation, agility, artificial intelligence, AI, any articles on that would relate to that tech space you may be interested in, those would serve as keywords, right? Your SEO keywords. So in your headline, if you have 3 keywords or phrases, that's where you want to have strong, impactful ones. So I hope that helps. That answers your question. We can come back to that as well. Okay, great. Thank you for your questions, by the way. Appreciate that. Summary examples. I'm going to move through these for the sake of time a little bit faster. I added some of these slides for you to have them as reference. And but this is a summary example of Bram Chiram, and really took a different approach, right? Senior consultant, people and change at KPMG, and started out his summary with wherever I go, I try to stand out. At weddings, I wear a bolo tie, etc. So it's a great, right away it catches your attention. But what I love about this, he's in the entrepreneurial space. He's creative, he's innovative, and that's how he's communicating about his experience. I think it's really positive, and it's a great example of another way to position that summary. You can take a look at the rest of the summary and read that. Okay, so just some specific points about summaries. Summary examples are energized by change and eager to challenge the status quo. This is an example of one. My path has taken me to unique communities and diverse contexts where I have made a career of connecting the dots. So this is an example. Complex problems require creative solutions. My ability to balance deep analysis and big picture thinking has allowed me to influence change at the community, organization, and sector levels. I've been known to colleagues for wearing many hats, juggling competing tasks, and finding new ways to drive impact across processes, projects, and strategy. If we go back to the keyword question and the search engine optimization, I think this is a really good opportunity to revisit that. Words like energized, change, complex problems, creative solutions, projects, strategies, those impact words are the type of words that are going to pop. Driving change is an important way of positioning the direction that this person took. So my last 2 positions were newly created roles where I designed projects, learning and development outputs to meet the needs and objectives of corporate and government funders. I have a track record of optimizing processes, testing ideas, and developing strategy across multi-layer projects. So again, there's definitely some keywords in here, and you're probably starting to pick up on those. Another thing that I did want to mention, whether you're in an innovative environment or not, all organizations are looking for some level of innovation. Design thinking, ideation, all of these things are opportunities that exist in a more agile work environment. So these types of keywords really speak to that. And I hope that you can see this is, it's subtle, but it's communicating about the experience in a different way than you do on your resume. Where your resume, one of the things that we like to use a lot is encourage students to use the CAR acronym, context of the situation, what the actions were, and what the results were. But in your LinkedIn profile, you have the opportunity to be far more creative and to include those keywords. Connecting the dots. I love the challenge of making connections across disparate information. The right answers come from asking the right questions. I have the intuition, empathy, and efficiency to source information for complex problems. One of the things we know that organizations are hiring for, and they're looking for talent with analytical skills, interpersonal communication skills, the ability to adapt and to be analytical. So you can talk about, instead of the time that you were at a company or specific titles, you can talk about what skills you bring to that workplace through this. Okay, we have another question here, so take a look at this. Question regarding job search using LinkedIn. It was mentioned that 93% of recruiters use LinkedIn. However, in my personal experience, reaching headhunters or outplacement services service firms has been more effective. What are your views? Okay, excellent question, and I agree. I think it's really important for you to engage in all ways that provide a good, strong strategy for you to land where you want to land. So the recruiter firms are really useful and great to utilize. We have a tool on the website called WorkMaze. All of you have access to that, and if you need some help finding that, just feel free to reach out to me and I can walk you through that. But that's a great resource for you to reach recruiters in specific industry sectors, for you to find resources for you. So yeah, I think you make a really great point. I think it depends on the level of position you're looking for. It depends on your experience. You're in an executive program, so for you, the recruitment headhunter direction is an excellent resource to utilize. Really, the key is to be an advocate for your success, to be an advocate for the trajectory that you choose to go on for your placement opportunities. So absolutely, that is a great way to go, and you will develop those relationships with recruiters and also with the headhunters as well. And some of those contacts can really last a lifetime. When you're looking for talent as well, you have a resource. So I would encourage you to utilize both. And happy to help you with that in terms of booking a one-on-one meeting and walk you through a strategy. You're the driver of your agenda and how you want to move forward, and we're here to help you facilitate that. Any other questions coming in or not right now? Okay, great. Okay, so we'll just move through here. Summary, this is some other examples from the first one, just to continue this. Building relationships, bringing different stakeholders together is an art that I embrace. I have an affinity for finding consensus to move forward and am energized by the process of understanding the dynamics of new groups. Great way of communicating about that. Building relationships tells us this person has positive interpersonal skills and excellent communication skills. The path forward, every day is the next opportunity to grow. I thrive in a fast-paced environment where the work never ceases and the learning never stops. I look forward to joining a dynamic firm where I can continue to support organizations and grow and evolve. So out of keywords, you may be noticing some of the ones that would pop already, but dynamic, grow, evolve, moving forward, energized, those are all impact statements and utilizing impact words. Just for fun, when I'm not working on the next learning opportunity, I'm exploring a new neighborhood, engaging with the community, or feeding off the intellect and humor of good friends and family. I take great pride in eclectic vinyl album and graphic novel collections. My downtime is best spent on lakeside runs with my lovable mutt, Clint. So that's a very personal perspective, but yet it shares more information about this person. And many companies today, part of the recruitment process is to determine that you're a fit for the organization, and that's a really important part of it today. So with the interview process, there's often screening interviews as before you get to that behavioral interview or before you get to that case interview. There are screening interviews and opportunities for people from a company to engage and get to know you. So those things are important to keep in mind. Here's some other summary examples I popped in. You can go back to this when you get the slide deck and just take a look at it. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time, but in terms of more of a path for you to follow some direction, here's a great, just a great outline for you. Strong opening statement, grab them, have your brand statement ready to go. What is that core message? What are you looking for? And add your impressive qualifications. One of the things I wanted to add to that last summary is there's a tremendous emphasis on social impact in today's business environment. So your LinkedIn profile gives you that opportunity to share information about an area where you dedicate your time or something that you're passionate about, whatever that might be for you. And many companies have that social impact piece or corporate social responsibility as a priority in their business strategy. So if there's something about yourself that interests you in that area, be certain to add that as well. Continuing to add a brief career background, numbers of years that you've been involved, and you can go through this and read this on your own. Most recently, you were with such and such, and you get the idea. So if you're feeling a little bit stuck, at least you've got this outline. This is a great place for you to start. Okay, and you can take a look at that as well. So I'm just conscious of time here, so I'm going to move forward. And as I said, I knew there would be some extra slides for you to review after we wrapped up the webinar, but we'll just move through this quickly here. I've talked a bit about the resume versus the LinkedIn profile. It is really important for you to keep the two separate. Your resume serves a very specific purpose. And this is also versus a branding messaging as well. So you can take a look at that. Communicating notable benchmarks. When you do this, keep it brief, to the point, concise, clear. 24% growth in sales and an 11% increase in gross margin, decreased internet acquisition costs by 16%, etc. Keep it short and simple, to the point. And in your experience section, I often receive questions about this. People are uncertain as to whether they should only add the name of the organization they were with, if they should add any bullet points under that. I'll stick with the rule of be concise in your messaging. You can have a couple of bullet points, as you can see here, directing you to action words, keywords, clear, concise, lead with achievement, impact results, and one sentence each. Whatever you choose to do, be consistent. So if you're going to, on one company that you worked with, if you had a lot of experience, what you want to avoid is adding 2 paragraphs and then on the other one below having 3 bullet points. So just be consistent in what you choose to do. You want people to reach out to you and to start that conversation. And here's some examples of that for you, so you can take a look at those. Okay, so to increase your visibility, you have opportunities to do that, to engage with content regularly, to stay on top of mind. Just in summary here with your network, publish to showcase your skill sets and interest, include impressive work samples, and showcase your passions. Be sure to proofread your LinkedIn profile. I know that sounds like an obvious point, but do a check on that. And here is a reminder of take some time to do the LinkedIn audit, and that will be a handout or a PDF document that will be attached with the link to the webinar for you to go back to that, and you can do a quick assessment of your LinkedIn profile. All right, and I said I would give you some quick tips. Employers make decisions based on a candidate's social media content. This is a social media platform, so this it's essential to have relevant profiles, quality over quantity, network, be engaged, follow, subscribe, and support others. I have here as well, be known as a resource, help others, and avoid the WIIFM. If you're familiar with that, what's in it for me? It's not all about only your profile. It's how you engage with your LinkedIn community. Don't ask for a job specifically, and I've seen that before. Let your status post do the work for you. You have a positive experience and background. You're in a fantastic MBA program. Utilize the opportunity to let your experience and your posts and some projects that you're working on really share the information about your successes in an impactful way. Make a plan. Don't expect to do it all at once. When it comes to making a plan, you want to take a look at your profile as well as joining groups, postings, and articles. So what I'd like to suggest to you is to determine, what that time frame is for you. The holidays are coming up. That might be a great time for you to do some extra work on your LinkedIn profile, but please don't feel like you need to accomplish it all at once. It does take time, and it is something that develops over time. So, just provide that space for yourself to be flexible and determine what your priorities are. If you're actively searching for a position, what I would recommend, if that's a top focus for you, is that you really work on that headline and that summary, and that's your priority. Start there, and then you can make a plan for the other aspects of the LinkedIn profile. Refresh your job search with tools and follow companies of interest, Facebook groups, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages. So you might be surprised to hear Facebook groups too, but there are a lot of businesses that will have Facebook groups and pages. It just really depends on what your focus is and what your industry is. Twitter as well, you'll see on LinkedIn, influencers will very often have their Twitter handle there as well. So if go to their Twitter account, and if it's of interest to you, then it may make sense to follow that because you'll have incoming updates in that account as well. And I think we have one last question. Okay. I find that LinkedIn is becoming like a Facebook or Instagram newsfeed of updates from people trying to provide updates on everything they can. What is the norm for providing updates or posting on LinkedIn? Great question. Thank you. Yes, LinkedIn has shifted over the last few years to more of a platform that has the opportunity for the postings. The traffic has definitely increased because if we think about, in terms of what we've learned here today as well, that engagement makes that difference. That engagement is picked up, and the algorithms are problem-solving, it's problem-solving data, essentially, that is, creating more traffic in terms of the postings and people finding each other. So as far as the norm, I think this is the important part of your question, too, is the norm for providing updates or posting on LinkedIn. you want to avoid overwhelming people, and if it starts to become too much, people will stop following you. It's that fine line of striking that balance. A weekly post, even a couple of times a week, can be very effective for general curating of information. So as I said earlier, if you're looking at making a jump to a different industry and you want to start to align yourself with intention around articles or information that are different from your current position, then you keep the updates going on a regular basis, but you definitely do not want to do it too much, because what will happen is people will stop following you and it starts to become annoying. So I really appreciate your question. I think that's a great one. Yeah, and it is social media, but it definitely is not a Facebook or Instagram. It is a place for professionals. So on that point, what you want to avoid is posting things that you would post on Facebook or Instagram. It's not the place to post personal events and that kind of thing. Keep it focused on business, and importantly, keep it focused on providing intention and attention to what your goals are. And that's where the alignment should be. And I'm really getting conscious of time here. So just one last thing. Your profile, think about it, step back, look at it from a macro level. What's your mindset? Is it a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? And I'm certain for all of you, it's a growth mindset. You're here learning. Your photo, headline, summary, those are crucial. We've covered that. Align your experience with your resume, but not cutting and pasting. Use the alumni tool and groups to reach out consistently and be active on the platform to be visible, but to this last question, not to be posting so often to the point that it becomes annoying for your followers. And the other thing is, on LinkedIn, you can always unfollow someone and they won't know it. So on that note, I would just like to close and sincerely thank all of you for listening in and joining on the webinar. If you're here on the line, and if you're listening to the recording, appreciate that. Connect with the Career Advancement Center. We're here to meet with you through the Discover, Build, Launch aspect of your career. My contact information is there, and if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we're here to help you every step of the way. Thank you so much, and have a great week.